There was a clip that went viral on Instagram and TikTok of comedian Andrew Schulz explaining the difference between TikTok in the US versus TikTok in China. He then goes on to explain that our version of TikTok may be used to manipulate us.
China, the way that the algorithm works, it doesn't reward people doing stupid dances and like playing with their dog. The algorithm is rewarding things that they want to see their youth do. So people doing cool engineering shit, people doing cool science shit. But if you're China and you wanted to disrupt another country, wouldn't you reward the dumbest possible shit on that app?
Now, if you're under 40 and thinking, there goes the boomers again, thinking everything they don't understand is evil, you may be right. However, there is some truth to this, but how countries manipulate its citizens isn't as blatant as A Clockwork Orange. This video is sponsored by Incogni. Hey, it's Donna, so in this video we will be talking about not so advertiser friendly topics, so please hit that like button, and while you're at it, share this video with a friend. Although a number of governments do this, today we will be focusing on China to explore the validity of Schulz's claims. It's become common knowledge that the Chinese government has complete control of what can and can't be said in its media. This, for instance, is a poster for Star Wars. In China's version, John Boyega, one of the film's leading actors, seems to be deliberately minimized. Additionally, he was cut from a perfume ad that he developed without his knowledge. In Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, many lines alluding to a possible gay relationship were omitted. In Doctor Strange, the Ancient One is supposed to be a male Tibetan monk, but because the Chinese government doesn't see Tibet as an independent country, the producers cast Tilda Swinton in the role to avoid any risk of offense. John Cena has apologized for calling Taiwan a country, and K-pop's influence, not very liked. While the government can easily manage these mediums, the rapid advancement of social media may cause some problems to the system, leading many to believe this to be a solution for Chinese censorship. However, recent reports from the New York Times have uncovered that it may be used as a tool to strengthen it even more. Since you're allowed to watch this video, you may be thinking, boy, I'm so glad I live in a country where I'm not forced to hand over my personal data. Wrong. Well, sort of. You may not have been forced to forego your privacy, but a lot of it is already being sold as we speak, and you may not even know it. Which is why I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Incogni. If you've ever searched your first and last name online and thought, whoa, why is all my information, info, and all that on here? I never gave any of that out. Or if you've ever gotten a call from someone impersonating some agency saying you owe money, chances are your personal information is already possessed by thousands of data brokers selling your data. Now, the good news is you have a right to request data brokers to delete that information. The bad news is there are quite literally thousands of them, and it could take you years to manually remove. Even if you think you were being safe and only entering your info in reputable sources, like, I don't know, your healthcare provider, data breaches have been on the rise. Last year, there were 68% more data breaches than the previous year. So it is highly likely your info is already out there. Incogni solves this by reaching out to data brokers on your behalf, requesting your personal data removal, and dealing with their objections. This whole process is automated and super simple. All you have to do is create an account and tell them whose personal data they'll be requesting to remove, grant them the right to work for you, and kick back and watch them do all the work. So sign up using incogni.com/internet. It's also down in the description below. The first 100 people to use code internet in the link below will get 20% off of Incogni. In July of last year, a Swiss biologist by the name of Wilson Edwards used Facebook, now Meta, to reveal the true origin of COVID-19. The frustrated biologist states there was foul play by the US government. US scientists were interfering with World Health Organization sources and researchers using intimidation. The US is so obsessed with attacking China on the origin tracing issues that it is reluctant to open its eyes to the data and findings. The posts by Edwards spread like wildfire on social media, eventually being picked up by CGTN, China's state broadcaster. Was this it? Had the origin of COVID-19 finally been resolved and the US was actually hiding it from everyone? No, not exactly. It turns out Wilson Edwards doesn't exist. The Swiss embassy put out a tweet that there are no records of this guy. He hasn't published any academic papers, and he's got like 3 friends on Facebook. So either he's a loser or the account is fake. It turns out the story of the fake biologist is just one of many social media campaigns designed by government actors with the sole purpose to manipulate public opinion. Now that was just the tip of the iceberg. What I have here is the November 2021 Coordinated Inauthentic Behavior Report from Facebook, again, now known as Meta. This report suggests that campaigns like this are running rampant on social media. Meta has taken down networks from Palestine, linked to Hamas, Poland regarding their border crisis, Belarus and China, and that was just from November of last year. So here, Meta defines coordinated inauthentic behavior as coordinated efforts to manipulate public debates for a strategic goal where fake accounts are central to the operation. Simply put, online campaigns with the sole purpose to manipulate you and control your perception of global events, foreign policy, whatever. They report that the groups that do this can be non-governmental bodies, aka regular people, but they also found government actors to play ball in this arena. So, how do they do it, and is it actually working? In May of last year, the New York Times discovered a post by the Shanghai police seeking private contractors for something called public opinion management. The Shanghai police's post goes on to say that they are looking for suppliers to provide hundreds of fake accounts from all major social media platforms, such as Twitter and Facebook. What makes this so terrifying is that it's more than just silencing K-pop stans. This method has been used to cover up and bolster fake stories that violate human rights, and create the illusion that there are a number of people okay with this. Last year, Chinese tennis champion Peng Shuai,
incredible performance,
all of a sudden disappeared, almost immediately after accusing a CCP leader of sexual assault. Within an hour of posting her accusation on Weibo, which is sometimes described as China's version of Twitter, the post mysteriously vanished. In fact, the whole story was scrubbed from their internet. Users began to discuss these events in code using the CCP leader's initials instead of his full name, Zhang Gaoli. But those two were quickly censored. There were no talks about this in state news, and Chinese search engines like Baidu limited what users could find when you search their names. But famous athletes just don't disappear. Her absence from the Australian Open began to worry fans. Many believed she was in danger after speaking out against a powerful CCP representative. The attempts to cover up this story actually made it bigger and prompted hashtags like "Where is Peng Shuai" to trend on American social media platform Twitter. Fans started wearing the hashtag on their shirt during the Australian Open, and the message was seen around the world. With all of this attention, it would look really bad. Months later, Peng Shuai would reappear when a video would surface of her having a meal with other people. But something about that video seemed very off. In several interviews after the video would surface, Shuai would say she never posted about anyone sexually assaulting her, and that this was just some big misunderstanding.
First and foremost, I must emphasize, I have never said nor written anything accusing anyone of sexually assaulting me.
These videos then seem to be artificially bolstered by a number of fake accounts. While the likes and reposts may create the illusion that there is consensus that she is okay, many still believe Shuai is in danger. Using fake accounts to manufacture group consensus is great if you are trying to fool someone over 60. These days, the public has become wise to content that is artificially boosted. Content with a high amount of views and likes, but almost no engagement, such as comments, are likely from individuals trying to game the system. This is because Posts are bolstered or downvoted by a network of bots. While it's simple to program hundreds of fake accounts to do that, programming them to artificially engage in conversation is so much harder. That's why you can kind of tell when someone is buying engagement on their posts, because their comments will make no sense. I mean, unless they're making kids content, then it never makes sense. But other than that, you can be assured it's fake. If the public is wise to this information, you can bet government officials are too. That's what makes this post by the Shanghai police so interesting. They're not only looking for suppliers who can provide hundreds of fake accounts, but they're looking for some with certain amounts of fans. Basically, accounts that may act like real people. Suppliers should package a portion of the overseas accounts into a group of premium accounts. That is, accounts that survive for a long period of time, have a certain number of fans, and can be used to promote information. Each month, on each platform, 3 accounts must be maintained, and an increase in fans must be guaranteed each month. Note, this project has intermediate time sensitivity. In 2014, the Chinese government launched the Strike Hard campaign against violent terrorism in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in an attempt to stop terrorism. While the campaign title has a reasonable enough name, terrorism does suck. The results of this campaign were all but reasonable. In 2017, after its launch, 21% of the arrests in China happened in Xinjiang, despite the people in this region to only make up 1.5% of China as a whole. Over the years, satellite images also revealed rapid construction of what looks to be like warehouses in Xinjiang. Something was clearly going on, mysterious structures growing larger year by year, and it's statistically impossible for this region to all of a sudden just have a higher concentration of crime. Spoiler alert, something actually was going on.
China's harshly targeting ethnic Muslims. The disturbing footage appears to show hundreds of detainees in Western China bound and blindfolded.
These structures weren't warehouses. They were something called re-education camps.
China claims the camps are re-education centers to de-radicalize Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities.
And according to the BBC, there is also evidence that Uyghurs are being used as forced labor and of women being forcibly sterilized.
The birth rate in Xinjiang sharply plummeted by half
in an attempt to suppress the Muslim population.
2 million people have been forcibly detained.
Prevent escape.
Sexual assault, psychological torture.
24/7 video surveillance.
Shot on site.
Cultural brainwashing.
Watchtowers.
And death.
China, of course, denies these allegations and claims the camps are voluntary and vocational, and their purpose is for de-radicalization and combating terrorism. With videos like that circulating the web, there was international outrage at how a government could do this to its own people. Governments like the EU, Canada, the UK, and the US have placed sanctions in Xinjiang as a response. So then China was like, our money! We cannot have the world thinking this is us because it's with our money. Government actors are not only using fake accounts to manufacture group consensus, they are attempting to replicate authenticity and relatability. These 2 elements are major fundamentals of what makes social media stars so influential. Okay, so the world was in shock at what China was doing, and many world leaders and representatives would give public statements condemning the situation. One in particular from former US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo really seemed to upset China because it set off a series of video responses from individuals claiming to be from Xinjiang, criticizing Pompeo. The people of Xinjiang were speaking out against this slander: taxi drivers, store owners, senior citizens, and people from all walks of life. As is the common theme of the story, there was something very strange about these videos.
The New York Times and ProPublica analyzed thousands of videos published on Twitter and YouTube appearing to show Beijing's version of life across the region. Now, Uyghur Muslims and other ethnic minorities are seen praising the Chinese government and claiming life is great in Xinjiang, despite global accusations of genocide, forced labor, and human rights abuses. The Times and ProPublica found many of these people use the exact same phrases and overall messaging in the videos, raising questions about their authenticity.
These videos first appeared on a Chinese app called Pomegranate Cloud, and then made their way to Twitter and YouTube in a very scheduled and coordinated pattern. No one was buying that these videos were real. Once again, the CCP's propaganda efforts had failed. Replicating authenticity and relatability is harder than it looks. However, they had another trick up their sleeve: influencers. Why replicate authenticity and relatability if it already exists? Like real-life friendships, online influencers tend to be more relatable to the average person by being less polished, more vulnerable, and breaking that fourth wall. Now, imagine what a governmental body can do if they can harness that influence to shape public perception. In fact, government documents have revealed that there is a fund for pro-Beijing influencers to travel the country. This channel called Barrett, for example, is hosted by a father-son British expats that now live in China. They showcase food, tourist attractions, and give you a sneak peek at what life is like in China from the perspective of a foreigner. They have over 300,000 subscribers, and everything looks as if it's a typical travel vlog. Until you watch videos where they discuss Xinjiang and Uyghurs. America does not care about Xinjiang Uyghurs. Now, there are many channels who have a similar message. COVID started in America first. The real reason Western media lies about China, and everything you should know about Xinjiang Uyghur genocide allegations, hybrid war on China in 9 minutes. With several global leaders condemning China's actions and China's representatives unable to explain video evidence, and the popularity of the story, you'd expect these influencers to receive major backlash. But there is none to be found. In my confusion, I turned to Instagram to see if I could get any answers. Had the CCP finally found the right formula to sway public opinion? Why weren't these creators facing any backlash? Maybe their viewers trust them so much, any outside criticism would be ignored. Okay, so to get a gauge on your relationship with influencers and how they affect you, I'm gonna ask you guys to complete the sentence. Recently, I am more likely to show interest in something or do research on it if I learned about it from online news articles, mainstream news, YouTubers/online influencers, or traditional celebrities. I know YouTubers are going to be the number one answer since you are on YouTube, but we still gotta make sure. Side note, if you want to participate in these videos and be part of the video, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. To no one's surprise, YouTubers was the number one answer, followed by online news articles. I then asked, how much do you trust these sources? Your answers were not very much. Well, I'm kind of offended. Give me your credit card information. I won't use it, I promise. This makes even less sense than before. If your trust for online influencers is so low, the commonly believed influencers manipulate their fans trope shouldn't be a concern. Your answer should also lead to these influencers receiving massive backlash due to the gravity of the story. However, a similar study regarding social media news mirrors the results I got from Instagram. Although there is an increase in individuals getting their news from online sources, they still state that they distrust these sources. What's going on? Why gravitate towards something you distrust? It turns out the effectiveness of these videos aren't really about trust, but we'll get back to that. In a 2017 study by Harvard, researchers examined leaked emails from 2013 and 2014 from the Internet Propaganda Office in the district of Xinjiang. From these emails, the team harvested over 40,000 posts that helped them identify 50 Cent members. No, I'm not talking about 50 Cent fans. 50 Cent members are government employees who are real people, and they help spread propaganda via leaving comments, reposting posts, etc. They're internet commenters, and they're colloquially known as the 50 Cent Party because they were rumored to earn 50 cents per day for doing this. In the over 40,000 posts examined, the 50 Cent Party's general strategy for spreading propaganda is coordinated distraction. Researchers found coordinated bursts of comments to flood social media, following times of tragedy and scandal. There was an uptick of posts, for example, after the Xinjiang riots and the Urumqi railway explosion. Bursts were also traced during holidays, which the study notes are times people are less distracted by work, and in China is correlated with political unrest. A number of festivals have even been banned because protests always seem to form during them. Okay, so what exactly is in these posts that's so distracting? Well, first, there is a general misconception that has been echoed by social media participants, journalists, and academics that the 50 Cent Party will be critical of any comments that are anti-CCP. They will engage in argument and even taunting, but these leaked emails reveal something entirely different. It turns out these critical comments only make up a very small portion of what these internet commenters post online. During times of unrest, there is actually an increase of comments that is categorized as cheerleading, posts that are very positive and prideful towards the CCP. The study notes that the purpose of these 50 Cent posts are to promote unity and stability through positive publicity and actively guide public opinion during emergency events. Now, if you think about it, this strategy makes total sense. Like, have you ever in your life been convinced you were wrong because someone in the comments was arguing with you? I'm willing to bet rarely. Additionally, argument would inadvertently cause the story to be more salient with the masses because of the way social media functions. Stories will be shown to more people because the purpose of, most social media algorithms is to make you stay on their platform. What better way to do that by showing you something you're interested in? Engagement, positive or negative, is a metric that delineates interest. This strategy drowns the critical story while promoting a positive image. Despite this study showcasing the strategic methods of internet commenters, these influencer videos also display similar strategic methods. Upon reading articles, watching videos, and state news, I found many of these mediums address the Uyghur controversy in a very similar pattern. Number one, they paint the illusion of addressing the problem. The story's gravity is much too big for an overt deflection. Cheerleading here wouldn't make any sense. Instead, most of these mediums only faintly address global accusations by stating there is no evidence that this happened.
The so-called document you're talking about is a pure fabrications. Don't listen to fake news. Don't listen to fabrication.
AKA, they investigated themselves and found they weren't guilty. Then, number two, they discredit the accusers. This is where distraction comes into play, because the bulk of the content in these mediums is often about how untrustworthy the sources of these accusations are. What makes this step even more effective is that many elements used to discredit accusers are not necessarily false.
Have you been to Xinjiang yourself?
No, I never have.
This video here claims that the US doesn't really care about Uyghurs and all it's interested in is profit. All of that is plausible, but it distracts from the actual issue, the evidence at hand. And lastly, number three, they end in positivity. After distraction and discrediting all accusations, they will paint the positive image of Xinjiang in China. State media has seen the success of campaigns like this and mirrored a similar strategy. Wait, you distrust China when the US has done all these bad things?
We want to unveil some incidents to provide a more objective picture of what the US and Americans are really like.
I mean, it is possible to criticize both countries, but okay. Again, this is allowed to live on YouTube because it technically is not misinformation. Now, YouTube has attempted to combat that by adding this disclaimer to all news broadcasts at the bottom here. The hope is the viewer will look at this and take into account the potential of bias. But the CCP news broadcasts have a solution for that. The New York Times reports that there are people who work for the state media or have special interests in them that create channels and upload videos with the same talking points. This video, for instance, shows foreigner Raz Gal. He is in a Xinjiang cotton farm. He basically goes around and talks to all the farmers and they explain everything is okay. The whole video has a vibe that's kinda like this is actually what's going on. What you don't see is that Gal has family business ties to the state. Now, they aren't required to have any disclaimers on their channels because individuals aren't required to have any. So in a sense, they are acting like influencers. When in reality, they are actually employees of state news, or in this case, have special interests in keeping a pro-CCP image. Once again, this wouldn't be classified as misinformation because you can't stop a guy from documenting what he experiences. Additionally, you can't prove he's being forced by the government to do this. Upon seeing the New York Times article done about him, Gal decided to counter the story by uploading a video for his audience. Interestingly enough, he uses the same distraction strategy mentioned previously. The bulk of his videos are attacking the reporter and the New York Times. This is perfect, because Americans already do not trust mainstream media. Circling back to the beginning of this video, Schultz is somewhat correct in that social media can be used as a tool for propaganda. However, I think his view of how is a bit short-sighted, and unfortunately is similar to how the public thinks. You may not want to hear this, but we gravitate toward dog videos and dumb dancing. That wasn't a result of propaganda. Social media is not based on trust. We don't blindly follow people just because we like them. This is why programs like Dare failed, or why YouTubers get backlash when they tell you who to vote for. Propaganda on social media instead relies on distraction. Solution. What is the solution? I don't know. I think I'm gonna pull a Philip DeFranco here and pass the question off to you. How does a social media platform solve this without trampling on free speech? Like, on one hand, people are allowed to have their crazy opinions, but on the other, the government actors are abusing this and using it to manipulate their public perception. You know, one of the last videos we talked about was the current fastest growing YouTuber, Mr. Beast, and how there is a new generation of creators being built by YouTube's algorithm that will inevitably lead to the most influential that we've ever seen. Even though metrics show that these creators hold a high amount of influence and that brands are willing to pay millions in order to access that influence, there are still individuals who doubt these creators have any sway. Influencers are just influencers and social media is just social media. Ironically, I think it is that perspective that actually leads these platforms to have as much power as they have. Your guard is down when you think something isn't as powerful as it actually is. That's the end of the video. I will see you guys next time. Oh, if you're a bot, that's for you. Stay psyched. Don't forget to check out today's sponsor, Incogni, at incogni.com/internet.